Why is it that I enjoy difficult games? I truly don't understand what has become of my sense of accomplishment in gaming because ever since Miyazaki invented Dark Souls or the Souls like, which only got named after Dark Souls because and Demon Souls obviously was the first one, but there was some build up to it before because it was still like a new product. Demon Souls, I had never played Demon Souls. I actually haven't finished Demon Souls. I'd like to do that. I started with Dark Souls, and that game was unforgiving, confusing. You have to piece together the narrative yourself, and there's a lot of things that just weren't fun about it. Like that, but that didn't you didn't feel like it wasn't fun. It was difficult. So when you beat it, you felt accomplished. You're like, ha, I beat, you know, Consort Radon before the patch. I went through the Ring City before the patch. I think it's funny that before the patch is a very big accomplishment. Be like, oh, I beat Consort Radon. Yeah, everyone beats him before the patch. What the fuck? First try. Bullshit, dude, no, you didn't. So there's this level of accomplishment and pride you have in beating these games and these bosses. And I think that the game that we're talking about here, Khazan, the first Berserker, fits into that to a degree. Now, non From Software Souls likes are usually hit and miss. They try to do something a little different while also standing on the shoulders of successful iterations before. Now, that's how life is. Anything that has ever been invented is usually standing on the shoulders of something else. So that I'm not unconcerned. Look at just From Software. Look at Dark Souls all the way to Elden Ring. You can find the same enemy designs, just slightly tweaked or slightly better, or not even not even fixed at all. Like the dang dogs or the rats. Well, the rats actually got easier, so they did, I guess, fix those. But the dogs have been the same for ever, and they're the worst enemies in the game. But you also see like the structure of different enemies from Dark Souls, and then trying new things in like Sekiro, where they added like jumps and parrying was a little easier, and then integrating the jump mechanic into Elden Ring. So each piece of, and Bloodborne had a very similar trying out different things. It was faster, more relying on like aggression and like dodging and visceral attacks, that kind of thing. And they ended up integrating some of that lighter, quicker movement because into Elden Ring, because Dark Souls 1 felt, and I played a little bit of Demon Souls. It's a little slower. It's more sword and board, it felt like. Dark Souls 1, you can walk through the entire game with just the heaviest armor, bad dodge roll, and somebody hits you, bonk, yeah, bonk them back, and then you bonk. And they didn't even have the guard counters like they do in Elden Ring, which I never really got into because we pulled away from dodge rolling and became a mixture of the two, I think, because blocking, well, and that's not true though, because I'm nowadays when I play Elden Ring, I don't think I block at all. So it's kind of swung too far in one direction. Now, Kazan actually has an interesting design in that when I first started playing it, it felt more like a Sekiro like, where you're parrying all the time, kind of like Lies of P as well. If you're into that game, that's a very good game as well. So I kind of leaned into deflection and learning the parry windows, which fantastic. I think Sekiro is actually my favorite From Software game overall. And so I was down to have this be the entire game. Now, as you progress, you realize that's not the case. This wants you to mix in dodging as well, because they have like brink dodging, which is like a perfect dodge, and they also have like timed counters, which I didn't really pick up on until later in the game, and then by that time it was kind of too late to work it into my repertoire. But there's a lot of mechanic here, which I think is like the first next step of these Souls-like games where they have built-in mechanics that are going to slowly become expected because it's just works so well. Now, from Khazan, I don't really see any that jump out at me. This does just feel like a very refined version of Sekiro with a little bit of Elden Ring juice in there. But that being said, there are some problems. So this could be more like a developer problem in that they're going to get better as they do it. So Khazan 2 could be like amazing, or if they just make a completely different IP but they probably wouldn't nowadays. You stick with what you got. But number 2 can be amazing, honestly. Like they could figure out like, okay, this boss worked, this one didn't. This boss was a little janky. This one we can make it a little better. So, and then on top of that, level design. That probably was the biggest problem I saw with the whole thing, was that the levels were just kind of redundant. The mobs were kind of similar and not... I didn't really have to... I don't think I lost my souls more than once. And that was because, like, I'd walked off or, like, did something stupid. Like, Dark Souls, I would lose my souls, not all the time, but the environment is just as deadly as any boss. So this took that away a little bit in that I never really felt a problem moving through. Like, there's these elite enemies. They're just a version of a different enemy with a little bit of, oh, he hits you with some poison or something, or he's got a status. But never really felt that big of a deal. So that's a knock on it. The level design's not the best. A lot of things look the same. Like the castle looks like this. Every castle looks the same. Every catacomb looks the same. Didn't really make me like... I could, like, you go to but I hate to always come back to Dark Souls into everything I do, but that's a lot of my gaming personality, is these kinds of games. So I'm gonna have to. And this is exactly like, or it is this genre's first step. Like, okay, can you be as good as Dark Souls? Okay, then let's work up the list. Are you better than Elden Ring? Are you better than Sekiro? Or, we could start going that route. It deserves that, because Khazan is very good, and I recommend playing it. If I haven't made that clear before I get into some more negatives, I think it's very good, and it can only get better with time. So some negatives, like I said, poor level design. The mobs weren't that great. One of the major problems I saw was the bosses, actually. Some of them were not as well designed as others in terms of being consistent with the gameplay that you've been leading up to it with. Now, I'm okay with having a different type of boss make you learn a mechanic almost. Like, your level 1 boss teaches you how to deflect really well. Your level 2 boss, but you're dodging a lot. Or level 3 boss would have been nice to be like, and maybe it did this because I didn't pick up on it, but it could be more obvious that you use the counter move, something like that. This game kind of just started doing weird stuff with the bosses and having you like not interact with them in certain situations. Like the Traka, the witch woman, was probably my least favorite boss, because no, that's not true. Elamine was my least favorite boss, and if you know, you know. But Traka has an attack where she pulls back and shoots you for like 30 seconds with, maybe not 30 seconds, but golly, it feels like golly gee willikers, it feels like 30 seconds. It's crazy how boring the fight gets if you've been losing to it a lot, and you're like, okay, here's the dodging move. Let me just dodge around for, however long and wait till I can continue the fight. That happened a little too much. Same with Elamine. There was just not it wasn't a boss design that I enjoyed interacting with. Like Traka, you had to chase all over. She's shooting projectiles at you. And I'm fine with that if it's done well. But like I said, that one felt like I was just constantly not having fun. And same with Elamine, where she's intending for you. Maybe she was like the counter boss, because it was like, okay, you've been hyper aggressive this entire game. If you do that to this boss, it'll fuck you up. And that became like annoying, because she was just like a unfun experience. And so I was trying to figure out what made like difficult bosses quote unquote fair, but also like enjoyable to fight. And I think I'm gonna have to do some like deep diving and fight some of those old bosses. Like I remember fighting Millennia. I remember knowing the number, but because I had like an item I was using every time, and I think I want to say it's over 50 at least. So, but I don't feel like Melania was a poorly designed boss. Now, admittedly, I remember at the time like why is she healing? Why could she do this? Why could she do that? But then afterwards I'm like, no, she was designed pretty much exactly how I wanted a boss who was at the top tier of bosses to feel like. And that's overpowering but accomplishable. And it was. So, and she's not even considered the hardest boss in that game anymore. Consort Radon definitely takes that point. So, uh and then like Bale and Midir, and I wonder how these, only because there's different mechanics involved now. Like you couldn't jump in Dark Souls 3, so does that change? Like if you added like the mount to that fight, like the Midir fight, does that make things easier? Because a lot of Midirs, you're just chasing him around, hitting his ankles. So whatever. Let's not focus on the other games too much. Stay on Khazan. There has to be a little bit more care taken into the bosses, because that's what these games are about. Now, I did just complain that the levels were a problem and that the mobs were a problem. So everything you're fighting I have said something negative about. But that being said, the feel of the game is so good, and some of the fights are fun. I'm not saying that all of them are a problem, but like I enjoyed Scalpel. Scalpel was a fun fight. um Ozma was fun in its own way. That took me a while, but like at some point, once I got the hang of it, admittedly the first phase is annoying, but once you got into it, you're like, dang, this is kind of crazy. So, but it could have been, there was, like I said, designs. You probably want to lower the health on that first portion of Ozma or something. There's got to be some change, because that just, when you lose to that, I gotta beat this stupid form again. Like you take a few too many hits, you're like, I don't even want to. Like, let's just call it. Like I don't have that many heals. Let's just reset. And so those negatives probably only drop it down like 1.5 to 2. You see what I'm saying? So that's still an 8 to 8.5. Well, yeah. I was just thinking, I'm like, do I want to push this to a 9? Let's not fuck around with letter grades. But that does make, or like numbers and stuff. And then that it makes things easy. But like, I think you need to keep life in a little bit more abstract. Like, you gotta stay in a little bit more abstract of a thought process, because not everything is perfect for everyone. So like, one man's 10 is another man's 6. That's just how life is. Everyone's got their own tastes. I have my taste in games that revolves closer to a Sekiro, where I would have preferred this game to be almost a Sekiro copy, but with a little bit extra juice to it. It's pretty close to that. So I really like it. I kind of actually do want to play it again, do a new game plus with, because there's 3 different weapons. So I played with one weapon. I could play with a whole different one. That could be an enjoyable time, because now you've like figured out all the bosses, and there's all the tricks of the trade, that kind of thing. I recommend it highly for those who do enjoy the FromSoft games. There may be times where the difficulty spike feels like it pushes you out of the game. I would say push past that. Look at what your build looks like in terms of, am I using all of my abilities properly? What can I do differently? Because one thing I did like about it was you could swap out any of your abilities at any time. You didn't have to worry about respecing at any moment, because it's pretty easy to do so. So that's always been one of the most annoying things about Dark Souls, is like when you have like a build you want to do, but you got to go, like, you don't even have the items for it. You got to go collect it or whatever. So this makes that easy, switching around. I want to do a greatsword build. I want to do a spears thing, blah, blah, blah. You could do that. And I appreciate that, in terms of like, there has to be an ease of access for everybody, because certain games are hard for hard's sake, in my opinion, and they don't need to be. And or lacking of information. They're like, oh, Dark Souls doesn't tell you anything. Like and everyone loved it. Yeah, well, there's some things it could give you that would make life a little easier. And I think Khazan actually takes a step in that right direction. I think Khazan is definitely like, I think I said it earlier, a step up on the shoulders of the FromSoft formula that then another team or even the same team, like I said, they can only get better with time. If they bring in more people, maybe they can steal some people from Miyazaki. They could make a better game in the Khazan world. So I would look forward to that, a Khazan 2 or just even DLC. Let's see what the DLC looks like. It could go backwards too. They could just be giving you more bosses that just upset you. Like if you, there's definitely some rants in my playthrough that, yeah, may not be as glowing as I make it sound. But that being said, this game is great. I think it's very tight in terms of its storyline and how it's presented to you. Like you don't feel like you have to fish for everything, like all the side quests and maybe I got to look this up on whatever to get the exact outcome I want. You don't really feel like you need to do that. This pretty much walks you up to every side quest and every thing it wants you to interact with and gives you the opportunity to. So like to get this true ending, you have to be on top of your collectibles game. But the collectibles aren't really that out of the way. Most of the time they're pretty straightforward. So I like that. I think there should be more ease of access in terms of storyline and mechanics so that you can then just have the best sandbox to play in. So highly recommend Khazan. Definitely, if I'm tallying off different nons from software Souls likes, it's definitely going in there with Lies of P. I liked the Surge actually. I didn't play the second one very much. I don't think I liked it as much, but there was another one, but we'll get to that later. I think that it is very good and worth your time. So check it out or don't. I'll be here if you're not. That's not good. Yeah, check it out or don't. I actually don't care about anything.